Afternoon all. Just for some historical trivia as a complement to the over the board game from last night, the Blackburne variation, this Blackburne Gambit rather in Scandinavian, I think can be traced back to this game in Hastings 1895, the Hastings tournament which Harry Nelson Pillsbury won. That amazing star out of nowhere, he came to win Hastings, and actually he seemed to be annotating some of the games, and there are actually some notes to this game. It was played between Beniamino Vergani, who was he beat a couple of players, Gunsberg and Cole Sletter, in this tournament. Had 2 draws, but unfortunately lost 17 and came bottom. And this is his game with white against Blackburn. So e4, we see this Scandinavian and this gambit with c6, and it's condemned completely, well, to a large extent, by Pillsbury, with the comments that black sacrifices a pawn for the purpose of obtaining a quick development. Expecting to bewilder his less experienced opponent, he obtains no sufficient compensation, however, during the opening. Now, after d takes knight takes c6, I'm going to put on a kibitzer actually, and I think a lot of it is about the d4 square here, if black can secure d4 control. And in this continuation here, white immediately, in my view, lost a lot of advantage with a very passive move now, d3. So it's nothing like white over the board. White's making no effort to contest the d4 square, and the evaluation has actually dropped very minimalistic now to plus 0.23. So I think black's got a reasonably good position now, and Blackburn plays very aggressively with f5. With that bishop not even eyeing this diagonal, it's not going to interfere with black castling. And black just had a good game now, I think, especially after bishop g5, which is another kind of error. Because if the dark squares are part of black's strategy, then giving up the dark square bishop, which gives black the 2 bishops, isn't a particularly hot idea here. g3, okay, h6, now 2 bishops. Black's nearly about equal here. In fact, it looks a lot more easy to play now for black. So there's a huge contrast between this position and my over the board from last night. We continue this game. I just want to go over it briefly. And Pillsbury actually indicated here, in view of the style of dashing tactics which black has adopted, one would expect here queen d7, and if white castles, then castling queenside, followed by g5 is equally good as the text. Okay, so black castle kingside though, white castle kingside, queen e7. I think, you know, black's absolutely almost at least equal from a theoretical point of view, even though there's a pawn down here, because you can see that the d4 control is much more evident as well with this dark square bishop. It's much more reinforced. White has a very passive position, and this is not very nice to play knight d1. Black actually can get a significant advantage now, and this is not mentioned by Pillsbury. There's a very forcing move here, which from an engine perspective, it's very good here. Not e4. If knight e1, rook ad8, this is just lots of pressure now in this position that white's facing. It's quite unpleasant. This kind of variation is unpleasant for white, even if the queens get exchanged off. White's going to be losing the exchange. So the e4 break is pretty dangerous here, and you might think, well, if taking and knight h4, the knight's not really a problem here with knight g6, because rook fd8 attacking the queen. Queen e3, now g5, the knight's kind of stranded when it goes to g6. Queen e8, aiming to get that knight. Bishop takes e4, but now bishop f7, and it just shows the knight stranded there. So if that's not an option to get a knight to g6, then actually black's e4 break in this position, it actually increases the advantage for black, gives black a significant advantage. But it wasn't played, just rook fd8 was played. Black's still better. White's just playing incredibly passively. And if we just get to the key combination aspect of this game, it's just horrid now for white at the moment. C3. Okay, white tries to construct a centre with D4, and to do that, F4, trying to undermine black's control of D4 here. And I think just taking here was best, but now this is a mistake, and white potentially is back in the game here. White could win, according to Pillsbury, another pawn quite safely, and he's right. Just taking and then taking here just wins another pawn quite safely, and white's getting this centre, and white's better again, but that wasn't played. Instead, F takes, after knight takes D4. Although this centre looks pretty solid, Blackburn's quite a dangerous tactical player, and this is demonstrated now that this centre is actually a tactical target. Bishop F6 eyeing now D4. There's a lot of pressure being mounted on the centre. Knight F3, G6, Knight D2, and here, yes, there's a combination building up now, but even in this position, the move is quite good. But I won't spoil the combination. We'll go to this position after B3. Can you spot what black played in this position if I give you 10 seconds starting from now? Or you might want to pause the video. It looks as though, you know, white was getting excited maybe to construct his centre, getting ready for other consolidatory moves maybe, but it's all blown away now because of knight B2, and these tactical targets are evident. If knight takes B2, there's actually a very beautiful combinatory idea. Rook takes C3, and if queen takes C3, then bishop takes D4 wins the queen. And if the queen goes back, then actually queen takes D4, and if white doesn't want to lose the knight on D2, tries rook F2. But here, there's another combinatory sequence here which would blow white away. I wonder if you can spot it here, if I gave you 10 seconds in this position. Okay, I thought this was quite neat. Queen takes F2, queen sack, so picking up that knight, and now both rooks on the 7th, and it's like they're forking the bishop and knight here, and white's quite defenceless in this position to this. If queen F1, yeah, losing another piece, and the pain doesn't end there, because now there's bishop D4 check, and rook takes G2. You know, black's hugely up in material, or rather, well, significantly up in material. Either taking the queen, or even stronger apparently is rook C5 with the threat of bishop D5, and white can't actually do much about that. This threat of bishop D5. So this is winning quite comfortably. So this knight B2 is the move of the game, the combinatory move of the game, and white just played queen E2, trying to ignore all of those problems. But knight takes D1, and now he loses C3. With that, D4 is crumbling potentially, but there's a nice blockade on D5 as well. So king H7, bishop G8. Okay, knight E5, we have queen C7, so black controls that C file. Bishop G5, rook, a pair of rooks come off. Bishop F6, first thing to win a pawn. Knight goes back, rook D8, queen E3, bishop D5. So after all this, okay, black has got all the pressure with the bishop pair, and there's a few more moves which black's been better, but it does need another serious mistake from white to make it even clearer, and that happens pretty soon now after check. King F2. Pillsbury notes here, white has stood well his ground until this point, but goes wrong now in this position. 41 knight F3, he reckons, was kind of lesser evil move to try and hold on. But engine suggests G5 is actually quite strong for black anyway in this position. So it's not exactly perfectly safe and correct. He doesn't mention G5. So this is a bad position even after knight F3. But King F2, and we see things pretty bad now after F4, opening up this key line of attack. So Bishop H4 check is on the cards at the right moment. Actually here, Knight E2, strangely enough, after Bishop H4, the engine gives this as equal, this position, even though it looks really dangerous. King G1, Queen E6, and okay, in this position, Pillsbury does identify, I think, the losing move. In the game, he indicates this is the losing move, Rook D2, and it is going downhill again after Rook D2. In fact, D5 from an engine point of view is actually quite good here, because we have now Knight D4 or even D6, and this position with Knight E6 and White's in the game again. Funny game. Okay, so but that wasn't played. We have instead Rook D2. So at move 45, the losing move, perhaps Rook D2. Now Rook E3 is a strong move here. Queen C4, check. King H1. Now that allows a mate in 4. Much more stubborn would have been Knight G3 in this position, when it still seems not much of an advantage for White technically in this continuation, because I think White has some potential for a lot of annoying checks. So, but White made it a lot easier because he blundered again with King H1, which now allows a mate in 4. So with check, and Bishop F2 is mate in 2 now. If King F1, then the mate in 2, I wonder if you can spot it actually, the mate in 2. White resigns a bit earlier than this. So the mate in 2 is, if you want to pause the video, okay, Queen H1 check, and takes Rook F3. So anyway, I just went over this game as a bit of historical trivia. So this seems to have been an important high-profile game for this gambit at Hastings. So with Blackburn messing around a bit with this gambit, and somehow this variation kept his name. But White's definitely, after D3 was not significantly better. It's all about the D4 square here. There's positional compensation already after D3. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.